Hey guys, it's Scott with Scotty B Cards, and in this video, I want to answer your hot takes. Baseball card hot takes, one of my favorite videos to make. It's because I will ask you for your hot takes, and then I will look at what you said and decide whether it was hot or not, and then decide if I agree or disagree with you. The great thing about this is there's a lot of opinions. I kind of filter through the ones that are fake, but I'll look at these opinions and we'll discuss how that matters to the baseball card market at the current time. You'll notice I'm wearing a Polo Kentucky shirt, which is a little out of the normal for me. And you may have also noticed I did not have a second video last week, and that's because I was in Kentucky looking to buy a house, and we did, and so I am moving to Kentucky. So if you're out in Kentucky or Ohio area in that region, because I'm in northern Kentucky, let me know what card shops are great and I can check them out. All right, so let's jump into the hot takes. The very first one, Fernando Tatis Jr. is overrated. This is something that is not that hot. I think a lot of people are thinking that right now, but it's amazing how short of a memory we all have. You know, we see a player with all the tools like Tatis, and once the injury bug bites, and he's had a lot of weird injuries, and you could even label him as injury prone. If it said Tatis is injury prone, I'd agree with that, but it's a little hot, a little too hot, because I think he's not overrated. I think he's relatively accurately rated. His cards are worth less than Soto and worth less than Acuna and worth less than a lot of people, but he still has a lot of hobby potential and value because his upside is huge. And he's a fun player and he plays for a good team. You know, the Padres, they're doing great without him right now. Once he comes back, they'll be even better. Manny Machado's looked better than Tatis would have at this point, most likely, because he's the MVP front runner. I know it's May, so it's early, but regardless, he has like almost 3 WAR already, which is insane. But Tatis is not overrated in my opinion. Maybe overvalued currently slightly, but I think that's different than overrated as a player. The next one, speaking of Ronald Acuna, Austin Riley will have a bigger impact on the Braves in 2020 than Ronald Acuna Jr. I commend this person for the hot take, but I disagree because I think Ronald Acuna Jr. is one of the most talented players in a very long time. You could argue in the history of baseball, which I know is dramatic, but again, it's about the ceiling Ronald Acuna Jr. has. Yes, he has to put it together, but he has 40-40 potential, and on top of that, he is coming off of the ACL injury and has been relatively healthy. He is sidelined right now at the hamstring or groin, one of the two, but he's coming back and the tests were negative. Austin Riley's played probably 30 to 35 games. I think he has about 0.6 WAR. Ronald Acuna Jr.'s played about 10 games and has about 0.5 WAR currently in this current moment. And WAR is wins above replacement. It's an accumulative stat. The more WAR you have, it accumulates every single game, then the better player you are, essentially. It takes into consideration base running, offense, defense, everything, all these different tools, and looks at an accumulative stat to really show the total value added versus a replacement player, a AAA player, for example. And so for Acuna to have almost the same output in a third of the game shows how impactful he can be. The argument for Riley is that he last year played 160 games, which is, I believe, the most or second most in all of baseball. And on top of that, Acuna was hurt. But at the same time, Acuna, when he's healthy, he'll be a 5 to 7 WAR player. Riley last year was, I believe, a 5 WAR player, but that's more of an outlier for him. I think Riley's going to be a fantastic ball player for a long time, but not better than Ronald Acuna Jr. And plus, if Ronald Acuna Jr. plays about 100 games this year, I think he'll have a huge impact for the Braves. The next one, Topps Finest Baseball will have a major resurgence once they start producing the basketball set. This one is not necessarily hot. It's not cold, but it is a take. So that's why it's in this video called Hot Takes. But it's tough because Topps Finest Baseball is overshadowed not just by Topps Chrome. You now have Topps Chrome Sapphire. You now have Topps Chrome Ben Baller. You now have Topps First Edition. It just keeps going on and on and on. You have even Bowman's Best is getting probably more recognition than Topps Finest at this current moment. And for that reason, Topps Finest is just getting forgotten about. The one thing about Topps Finest is it will have relative value forever just because it is one of the earliest sets from 1993. And this is the introduction of the refractor was in Topps Finest. And for that reason, it will always have value in the hobby. I do think its value will increase. I think it's an underrated set, but I think it has an uphill battle against the current market. There's Topps Chrome everything. I wouldn't be surprised if they have more Topps Chrome introduced. Actually, I think there's plans for more Topps Chrome, which just makes it harder for Topps Finest. It's kind of getting tough about knowing which cards to target right now, and someday I'll do a video about that to describe that to you. The next one, F1, Formula One racing, is an absolute terrible investment. And 61% of people agreed with this take. I truly have no idea about Formula One. I wouldn't put my money into it, but it is a very global sport. Racing is popular. I have no clue what the market's going to hold for Formula One. If I had to have my money in one sport when things slow down, it probably wouldn't be Formula One, but there is a lot of valuable stuff in those sets, those early sets, so I can't say anything. So So I'm gonna let you know this take is probably too hot for me to even answer because I have no clue. Wave refractors look nicer than their non-wave counterparts. This one's interesting because it was an even split. 51% said yes. So technically the majority said yes. But the truth is, I think the wave refractors do look really cool too. The difference is some cards that can be distracting. If you have a wave refractor that's really distracting, it makes it harder to really appreciate the image that's on the card. The other thing about wave refractors is they do have more of a pleasing look when you move it that refracts better than regular refractors. And so yes, look-wise, it is potentially better looking. I think they're very good looking. I would not want a red wave over a normal red. There's just a lot of legacy and history in the red. I think it's a lot of these answers are saying no because of the legacy, not because of the actual look. But for me, I would never want that over the traditional color. But they're really good looking. I do agree with that. Bo Bichette will be in the Hall of Fame, so his cards are a good investment. Whoever you are, I appreciate how hot this take is. I love that you went out there on the line. Bo Bichette, I think his cards may be a good investment, but he has an uphill battle to the Hall of Fame. I think we get distracted by how hard it is to make the Hall of Fame. If we look back at a lot of players' careers, it's a very hard thing to do. You have to really produce at an extremely high level for an extremely long time. So this is a hot take. Could he be in the Hall of Fame? I'm not saying no. He has all the tools. If he improves his defense a little bit, he'll be even better. But the truth of the matter is it's a long shot. But his cards could be a good investment. So I would say yes and no at the same time. This next take, centering should not affect card value / condition as much as soft corners or surface / edge issues. I don't disagree with you, but our cards are graded a lot of the time based off of eye appeal. And so if centering's terrible, the eye appeal of a centered card with a surface scratch you can't see through the case, or a card that's extremely off center that's pristine aside from that, it's a very hard argument. It's a hot take. This person's commented before about it, and I think they have a real argument. And I don't disagree with them in the sense that, we all have our specific categories and subgrades that matter to us. I appreciate cards with a clean surface and sharp corners. Dinged corners bug me more than a little bit of edge wear. They bug me a little bit more than centering issues. But at the same time, some people, if it's not centered, they're not interested. And for that reason, even if it was in a high grade, let's say it's a 9 or a 10 with off center, everyone's always going to say, yeah, but it's off center. It's kind of just what happens. So for that reason, I think it's valued fairly. SGC always says that it's too hard to quantify a specific card within 4 subgrades. This is one of the most obvious subgrades. You know if a card is centered or not. And for that reason, I think there is a good reason why the value does get impacted by bad centering. Next one, all 2018 to 2020 rookie cards are overvalued. That's a hot take. I like that take, but at the same time, I preach that in a sense. I preach that a lot of the cards are overvalued or they're overproduced. To say all of them is a very hot take. I don't disagree with that. I think there's a ton of cards with a ton of potential from 2018 to 2022, and there's going to be more cards produced now until the future, 2050, that will have higher print runs than we had in 2010, but they're still going to have a lot of value. It's just the way the hobby works. There's red refractors, there's super refractors. There's rookies like Juan Soto who are later in the set. So that's like Jared Kelenic, the same thing. And Julio Rodriguez could be the same situation as well. All these different types of things matter. It's not just about the cards. It's about the full picture about what makes those cards rare. If Julio Rodriguez becomes the best player in the history of baseball, which is again a long shot because we have Barry Bonds, we have Babe Ruth, we have Mike Trout, we have everybody you can think of in between. If that does happen, his cards will hold value, especially the lower numbered ones or the short print image variations. So for that reason, I don't agree. I appreciate how hot the take was. It was nice, but I don't agree. People will lose money on Wander Franco. This actually could happen. People pay big bucks. People lost money on Luka. Luka in basketball is playing great, and his cards are down drastically. 80% on the silver PSA 10, I believe, down from like 8,000, even maybe more than 80%. But the point remains, it's all about not buying at the peak hype moments. This is pretty silly because it's just like, yeah, don't buy at the peak, guys. That's not what I'm trying to say. But my point is, when you buy at the peak of hype, you can tell when something's hot in the hobby. You can tell when things might be slightly overvalued. I knew last year, heading in 2021, Mookie Betts cards were overvalued. I wasn't buying then. I probably should have sold, but I like him too much. But I knew he was overhyped. Now look at his cards now. Once they have a slow stretch, once they aren't the new hot rookie, like Wander Franco won't be soon, Kelenic could be there. Then you have CJ Abrams. He's not, I don't think he's even playing with the Padres right now, but he's a hot rookie. Once the new sets come out, we have a very short-term memory, especially when it comes to buying baseball cards. So for that reason, people could lose money on Wander Franco. I also think there's people who are buying the right cards that we aren't realizing they're going to make really good money on Wander Franco. I think he is the real deal. I think he has 1.4 F-WAR right now, which is pretty good. Not bad at all for a rookie. And he has the potential to be a 6-7 WAR player year in, year out. So I don't think everyone's going to eat their shirt necessarily on Wander Franco unless we have a huge spike like 2020, what happened with Luka and everybody else that year. But regardless, people probably will lose money. It's a good take. All right, guys, that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with all these takes. And other than that, I will see you in the next video.